Hey guys, this is Ashley White, the owner of the Polka Dot Alley, and I'm so excited to introduce you to the Alley podcast. Hey guys, okay, so it's been a minute, and I know I've had so many of you asking about my trip that I went on with my mom, and I thought this is the perfect way to be able to kind of tell you how the trip went, give you my pointers, if you will, and just kind of tell you what I thought about going to Europe. It was amazing. I will admit, and I don't know if this is an American thing, if this is an age thing, if this is a Texan thing, I don't know what it is, but for whatever reason, and it sounds silly to say now that I've been, but it truly never occurred to me that it was an option, I should say, even to go to Europe. It just really didn't. It was something that just seemed far-fetched. It was something that just seemed like, a lot of the people I know don't do that. People go to Florida, people go to Vegas, people go to California, maybe Palm Springs, different places, Colorado, but to actually get a plane ticket and to actually go to Europe. And then where are you going to go in Europe? It seemed a little overwhelming. It just seemed like something that wasn't even really on my bucket list. It wasn't something I had truly considered. After losing my dad this year, really leading up to that, knowing it was coming, I had told my mom I wanted to take her on a cruise for her birthday. She turned 70 in July of this year. And I said, I want us to go on a cruise, just you and I. I want to go. I want to travel and go somewhere. And I told her it was up to her. So I told her to pick where we went. I was open to wherever she wanted to go. So she, of course, dove in, started researching and looking at all of the places. And she picked where we went and the cruise line that we went on. So I want to kind of give you some of my feedback on that. Do with that what you will. So leading up to the trip, everybody kept saying, are you excited? Are you excited? Have you packed? Have you researched? And I really and truly didn't. Not that I was excited. I did not research. I didn't look into any of it. I kind of just let her take over on that with our travel agent. And I just kind of waited until I got there to see everything. Hindsight 2020, on some of the locations, I was fine. Some of them, I do wish I had maybe looked into it a little bit more and had plans. I just find, though, that sometimes when you're on a cruise and you have that limited day at each port, I don't necessarily want to have an excursion after an excursion after an excursion and feel rushed and feel like I don't really get to see the place. Like, I want to see where we are more than I care about swimming with a dolphin. So for me, I wanted to really just kind of submerge into each location, and we did that, and it was awesome. So we went on Crystal Cruise Line. I highly recommend them. I don't know, I had never heard of them up until this point. I have, since hearing of them and going on the cruise, found out that they are under new ownership recently, and it was immaculate. Everybody that worked on this ship was amazing. And, I've been on Disney cruises as well. It was like that there too. I do think Disney is going to be more of a family destination cruise, and Crystal is amazing for couples. Families can go on there too, but for couples, for something like us, mother daughter, maybe girls trip, something like that. It was top of the line, honestly, in every way. We had a great room. We had a room attendant that we loved. All of the staff at, the pool and the restaurants, we got to know, as you do on a cruise ship. It's so funny when you go on a cruise, it really and truly does kind of feel like a little bit of a home. And then when you leave, you're almost sad. You're going and saying goodbye to all of your friends because you spend, whether you're there for 5 nights, 7 nights, 10 nights, however long you're there. In this case, it was 7 nights. You're with these people all the time. You see, we made friends on the ship. We had the people that work on the ship. And so you kind of just get to where you're spending all your time talking to them, and they know what you drink and they know your routine, and it's really fun. So it's kind of sad when you leave and you have to go home and like clean up after yourself and no one's making you your dinner and serving you drinks by the pool. So I do love doing a cruise. And, I know some people are of the mindset that if you're going to those places, you want to have more time than what a cruise would allow in each port, things like that. For me, I feel differently. I feel like that was the absolute perfect way for me to experience Europe for the first time. I feel like I would have felt pretty overwhelmed going on my own and trying to figure out which hotels are going to be good and can I get from this place to this place and lugging my luggage around. And so it was nice going on the cruise because we were able to get off that ship, in each port, go see what we wanted to see, have food there, lunch, dinner, whatever it might be, depending on the schedule of that day, but then get back on the ship. And all of our stuff stayed there. And we kind of knew our way around there. And so it was that perfect happy point for me, honestly. And I will absolutely do it again. I did love that I got to see different parts of the world that maybe I don't necessarily have to go see again because now I can say I have, but then also places that I absolutely would love to see again. And I feel like it's something that I would definitely love to take the kids to see when they get a little bit older. For me, my youngest is 7. I feel like I'd rather him be maybe a little closer to 12. And then I think once they get a little bit older, taking them would be absolutely incredible. It was such a cool experience to see how different it is everywhere. And it's funny, I came back saying, there's so many things that I wish that America could kind of learn from them and that we could do in regards to their just their pride. I feel like the pride that they take in Europe in not only their appearance and their clothing and the way they represent themselves to the world, but also where they live, their home. Everything was clean. You didn't see trash anywhere. Even though smoking was fairly prevalent, you didn't see cigarette butts all over the floor. And, here we're in Fort Worth, Texas, but it doesn't matter where you go in the US. I hate to say it. I'm not saying everywhere, but most places, if you pull up to a gas station, if you're walking down the street, you're going to see trash and you're going to see a straw and a lid to a cup and you're going to see cigarette butts and you're going to just see things that over there we really and truly did not see. And we walked a lot, believe me. That's another thing. You will be walking a lot. But there were so many things like that that I loved. I loved the slower pace. I loved how everyone just kind of seemed almost happy and relaxed and very chill. But I still would rather live here. We have air conditioner everywhere here. Another thing that's kind of a double-edged sword, I guess, if you will, is that they really have such beautiful spaces. They have parks. They have tons of just big open areas with sculptures and beautiful architecture and things of that nature that people, because probably of the no air conditioner and the small apartments that they live in, they spend a lot more time outdoors. So they really make that area nice so that they can sit and they can enjoy it. And I feel like in the US, we're a little bit more of the mentality that every acre is a certain amount of dollars. And so you don't see as much of that here because we do want the bigger houses and we do want the space. And so it's hard because as much as I would like to say, yes, I would love to have more of that life that they have there, we also don't want to give up the things that we enjoy here. So I think you maybe can't have it all. You can't have it all, but it's really cool getting to see what it's like over there. So some of my tips, some of my pointers, favorite places I went, things like that. Travel agent, first and foremost. I definitely think you need a travel agent. I have used multiple different travel agents over the years. And I think the most important thing is realizing what your travel agent isn't going to do for you and what they are. They are not there to be your day in, day out consultant. They are not going to plan down to every single move that you make unless you pay them and ask them to. They are going to book the trip for you. They're going to give you some pointers. They're going to send you information right before, things like that. I absolutely think it's worth it. I know I've seen a lot of people go back and forth on this, on if they can get it cheaper without or with. For me, I feel like just having the security of knowing that someone who has done this before, that does this often, they have made sure that everything is booked for me. Especially when we're talking about going on a cruise. These people do this day in, day out. They're going to know what kind of room do you want? Are there certain upgrades that you potentially need? Where do you need to fly into and fly out of? They can set up the car service for you to pick you up from the airport and potentially take you to a hotel if you need to stay at one the night before or the night after that cruise, which I also do recommend. You never want to cut it close, especially these days with the way flights have been going. We made sure to fly in a full day before and we did not fly out until a day after. Not only was it nice getting to see the area, but just having that security of knowing that if we had delays, we were not going to miss our ships. So, but that's just part of the reasons. I just felt like it was very nice using the last few cruises I've gone on. I've always used a travel agent and I just really do recommend it. I think they are going to get you better deals, truly. I think they know more about the area. And if they don't, they know people in the industry that do, and they're going to find out, and they're going to make sure they give you good recommendations on where to eat and where to stay, where to go, where not to go, things like that. So that's the first thing. I do recommend that. Second thing is what I just told you. If you're going on a cruise, definitely go early and leave late. You do not want to cut it close. That would be a complete nightmare for you to pay for your cruise, have everything ready, be so excited, and then cut it close like flying in the morning of. Even though usually on a cruise ship, you're not going to get on that ship until midday, even into the afternoon. So in your mind, you're thinking, I've got plenty of time. I'll just fly in that morning. All it takes is for that flight to have a delay or something to happen and you miss the ship. So that would be beyond unfortunate. Packing. My mom was all over me about packing. She's like, just bring one little bag. We're not going to want to have a lot of stuff. Has anyone here met me? That doesn't happen. So I don't care. I didn't care. I still brought all my suitcases and it was fine. So I had a large suitcase. I had a small suitcase. I had a carry-on duffel and I had my purse. And I was fine. It wasn't a big deal. They, on the cruise ship, they took the bags for me that didn't fit under the bed. I put most of it under my bed and then I just asked them to take some and they did. They have a spot for those. Not a big deal. So now that said, if I wasn't going on a cruise and I was going to France and then popping to Italy and to Spain and all these places without being on a ship and having to go hotel to hotel, absolutely, it would be a lot more efficient if I just had one suitcase. But that wasn't the case. So I brought all the clothes and I'm glad that I did. Where we went, we flew into Nice, France. We honestly didn't get to see that area because we flew into Nice and the driver took us directly over to Monte Carlo. We stayed there for a night. I absolutely fell in love with that area. I loved Monaco, Monte Carlo. We went to the casino from James Bond movies. We went out to a great restaurant. That was another thing too. I was very back and forth on the food. Some places I loved the food. Italy, I loved the pasta. France, I loved the food. Spain wasn't as much my thing. I'm not really a big meat eater. I'm more of a seafood fan. So there were certain things in Spain that just weren't my usual, but I tried. I tried a little bit of everything, except for the tartare that my mom eats because I cannot bring myself to do that. But we had a lot of fun, and it was a complete experience, to say the least, getting to see just the way of life that they have there. And I know I'm really thankful that I did have the means and the time and all of that to go. And for anyone who does, whether you do it now or you have to wait until you're retired or whenever it is that you have the opportunity to go, please do it. I felt like I never fully, I don't want to say I didn't care to see it, but it just wasn't something that I had felt like, oh, someday I have to see Italy or I have to see France. It just wasn't something that I had truly thought about. Now that I have seen it, I feel like I would have been missing out if I wouldn't have seen it. It was just so eye-opening and so cool, honestly, just seeing how different it can be. Um, really like in a movie, just seeing, in Saint Tropez and in Monaco, seeing everyone going around on mopeds instead of cars and how little the roads are, seeing the pride that they all take in their clothing and everybody and the way they're dressed. And that's a funny thing too, being, in fashion, that being my job. When we were in Santa Margherita, Italy, which I loved, by the way. I have never in my life seen so many Levi's t-shirts and Tommy Hilfiger. And it was so funny seeing the things that here in the US, they sell at like TJ Maxx. It's kind of the stuff we're not really wearing anymore. Everybody there had on. I told my mom, my gosh, I need to set up a polka dot alley there and just basically raid TJ Maxx here in Texas, take all that, and I would make a killing. But it's funny just seeing how different the styles are. Whereas, right there next to Santa Margherita in Monaco, they're dressed to the nines. The men have on top hats and they're in, sports coats, and the women look incredible and no one's walking around in a t-shirt. So that's another thing that's really interesting, is seeing how they are so close together on the map, but they are worlds apart in not only their language, but their dress and their food and all these other ways. So it was so neat and interesting to me to see, this whole cruise. We stayed in an area smaller than the state of Texas, I think, but we saw complete different ways of life. And it was so interesting. And I really enjoyed it. I was on a little trolley in Monaco one day, kind of popping around, seeing the sights, going to some shops. My mom had stayed back at the room, jet lagged. This was our first day after the flight into Nice. And I met a little boy and his nanny that were on the trolley, and he was speaking perfect English, sounded completely American. And I said, "Oh, you're an American." He had his Nintendo Switch. He was playing Minecraft. And I said, "You're American." And he said, "No." And his nanny said, "He's French. He just speaks English like an American." And I was like, "Well, that's really cool." And he said, "It's because I watch American YouTube." And I thought, how funny is that? He was 10. This 10-year-old speaks perfect English because of American YouTube, but it was so cute. And then, of course, in French, he sounded French. But it was really neat. So we started in Monte Carlo, Monaco area. We were there for 2 days, which was amazing. I would absolutely love to go there again. It was, I mean, pristine. It was beautiful. The architecture was incredible. Everyone was nice. That's another thing. I feel like you always hear people saying that people in France, or at least I have heard, that the French are rude or they don't like Americans. I did not experience that at all. I felt like they were all very friendly. Everyone was nice. We did not run into any of that. So that was really nice. But loved that area. We went to Saint Tropez, which was also really cool. I felt like in Monaco, if you go there, you do not need to have a car rented. They have transportation that just takes you all over, and you can hop on. And it's honestly, I think, 2 square miles, the entire area. Seeing the yachts and just wondering, what do these people do for a living? And just seeing all the beautiful buildings right there by the water. It's so neat to see it all. The food is great. Lots of shopping to be had. The casino is obviously nothing like a Vegas casino, but it was beautiful. But we wouldn't have needed a car. We just popped around and that was fine and easy. Then we went over to Saint Tropez. Like I said, there you absolutely could have a car. It was definitely a much bigger area. And we did fine without one, but it is a bigger area. I feel like you're going to want a car, or you're going to want to kind of have some kind of plan as to where you're getting off and what you're doing. If you're just there for a cruise, of course, you do not need a car. This is me talking about if you go there for a longer period of time. We had great food there. There are beaches. We had a lot of people on our ship who were excited to go to the beach clubs there. We just didn't want to do that. I felt like, you know what? Like, we go to the beach in Florida. I'll tell you, we did go to the beach. It's pretty, but to me, it wasn't a huge difference than going to Longboat Key or Anna Maria Island. I really wanted to see more of Saint Tropez. So we went to lunch, we went through the shops, we looked around some of the, places to go. Let me tell you, the Christian Dior in Saint Tropez is amazing. The people watching at the little cafe out there, it was crazy. If you've seen the movie Crazy Rich Asians, I felt like I actually lived it sitting in front of Christian Dior, because there was this family of like 20 that came out that had their own photographer that came with them. No lie. I don't know if they're influencers. I don't know what it was. I have some pictures. I'm going to figure it out one of these days, but the amount of things they went in and bought and came out with, and the pictures they took, I felt like I was sitting inside of a movie. It was really fun. My mom and I just sat there drinking our drinks at the cafe in front, watching everyone, and it was really cool. So we liked Saint Tropez a lot. We only had one day at sea. If you're going on a cruise and it is a longer one like that, I will say that I would prefer 2 days at sea. One day at sea to me is just not enough, because especially, I took my mom who is 70. So it's like you're going, and you're jet lagged and you just get really tired. You're just seeing all of these sites. You're doing a ton of walking. I feel like having the 2 days at sea is really nice, because it gives you just that break time, that time to just sit and read a book, or for me, needle pointing by the pool. And we played backgammon, and we went and just enjoyed different things on the ship, which was really cool. So we only had one day, but we ended up taking 2 on the ship. The second day in Mallorca, we decided to stay on the ship. So I'll tell you more about that in a second. So Monaco, loved. Saint Tropez was great. Santa Margherita, Italy, right next to Positano. It is a hidden gem, and it was amazing. We loved it. I would absolutely go there again, not only to see Santa Margherita, excuse me, but just to go throughout Italy and see different places. We have a cruise scheduled actually for October of 2025, and I'm really excited. We're going to Rome and Sicily and Naples, and so I'm really looking forward to that with some of our friends. But Italy, the cool thing too about getting off the ship is how different. I would open the balcony and the curtains and look out onto the balcony at each place we would get to each morning. And it was just so different from one to the next. And it was crazy. So Italy, you open the curtain on the balcony and you just see colored buildings everywhere and you see flowers everywhere. And it was just so pretty. We just walked around. They had little street vendors set up and I got some little trinkets, a little, kind of a ring dish and different little keepsakes. There was an artist on the side of the road painting these beautiful scenes and I bought one for my daughter's room. So that was really neat. We did some shopping. We got an ornament in each location that we were able to get one for the Christmas tree. And we had amazing seafood. We walked into one of the hotels down there in Santa Margarita just to grab a Coke, and she wanted a cappuccino. And it was beautiful, just sitting there looking out at the water and looking at their beach, which has rock rather than sand. But Italy was, oh my gosh. I mean, it really did look like something out of a picture or something you see that you think isn't real, and it's real. That's how it looks in real life. So I'm so glad and so thankful that I got to see it. And I definitely want to go back. After that, we went to Mallorca, and we were in Mallorca and then Barcelona. So we had 2 days in Mallorca. The first day, this is the one place that I wish we would have planned better. It's huge. Mallorca is huge. So Monaco, Saint Tropez, Santa Margarita, they're all pretty small. They're not huge. You can get all the way around them in that one day off the ship. Mallorca, and the reason it turns out we're there for 2 days, is really big. You're going to need a car, or you're going to have to take, a trolley or an Uber. They have easy, you can hop in cabs everywhere. I do wish we had had a plan of, where is it good to have dinner, where are good places to go, and we really didn't. So we just felt a little bit lost there. We didn't love where we went to eat. They had very adventurous things on the menu like rabbit. And so I was a little nervous because I'm a Texas girl through and through and my palate is not that amazing. So I felt like I wish I would have had more of a plan for Mallorca. So I do recommend if you go on a cruise and you have a 2-day stop somewhere, there's a reason for that. That's probably a pretty big location. You're probably going to want to have plans or look into what it is that you want to do. After that first day, we went to a cathedral that was absolutely stunning. And it was funny. My mom said she had a religious experience there, and I kind of felt the same. We really did. We loved everything about the cathedral that we saw and just getting to experience and see it. But wait till I tell you about Barcelona's. But anyway, so we did everything that first day. We kind of felt like we didn't know where we were going or what we were doing. We saw the architecture. We saw the cathedral. We did the last of the shopping that we needed to do or that our wallets would allow. And so the second day, we decided to stay on the ship. We honestly woke up, we looked at each other, and we were like, I kind of don't want to go anywhere. And we agreed and we did it. And so we played backgammon. We went to the library on the ship. We went to the pool. We had breakfast. We got to just move at a leisurely pace that day. And it was really nice. And it was kind of needed at that point. I think at that point we were maybe 6 days into the cruise. So we enjoyed doing that. Our last stop was Barcelona. We got off of the ship in Barcelona and we had a full day of a tour that we went on basically. And we saw all of Gaudí, like we saw Montserrat, we saw the park, everything that he's done. The architecture in Barcelona is something like you've never seen before. I felt like Barcelona was a cleaner New York City. You walk down the streets easily. We went from our hotel. We would walk down to dinner from the hotel. There's, ice cream, there's shopping, there's all the bougie stores, but there's also just regular Zara is everywhere there. I'll tell you that. A lot of, perfume stores and places like Sephora and Ulta, but they weren't necessarily called that. So lots of shopping, lots of dining options, very pretty, people walking everywhere with their dogs, and it was really nice. But the architecture is something that was absolutely amazing. We did go on the tours. The La Familia, we were not able to go into because apparently it's like a year in advance that people buy tickets for that. It is the most insane church I've ever seen in my life, just from the outside. The amount of time it has taken them to build, and the fact that when he started it, knowing that it would outlive him, knowing he was not going to be able to see the end product, to me showed how selfless this man must have been in a way that most people in these days aren't anymore. To know that you're building something that he literally left notes and left plans for the future architects and people that would come in, knowing that it would take longer than his lifespan to build this, is pretty incredible to me. And I thought it was just beyond interesting. So that was a great, very hot day, I will say. A day of walking, a day of a lot of water. It was not fun in the way of the moment, but it was really, really cool seeing all of what he created, seeing the detail in it, seeing how much pride and care they took in building these, monuments that are going to be there forever. And when we went to Montserrat, there is an option to go up there. It's really cool going up there and just seeing where, the monks live and where the boys go to school. And then you have an option to go in and pay. I think it was, I don't know, $20 or something for my mom and I both, to go and see their basically statue of the Virgin Mary. And they have it up in the very back top steps of this massive, cathedral. And you get to go and touch, her hand. And we did it. And going into it, we were just like, oh, okay, we'll just do it because somebody else on the tour was doing it. And so we just felt like, but then when you go in and you go up and you do it, we were both raised Catholic, and you go up and do that. And I mean, you couldn't not be emotional. It was honestly just, it was so insane just being in there, and everyone was quiet, and just seeing everyone, go up, to the front. After you go up and see Mary, we were able to go back down and just sit in the pews, and watching people going up and doing the sign of the cross and just kind of saying their prayers and just being there was pretty cool and pretty spiritual. So I absolutely recommend, if that is something that interests you and you're in Barcelona, for you to spend some time doing. We went on a tour, and I wish I had the name of it right here. If anybody's interested in that, send an email to us at management@thepolkadotalley.com. I can let you know who took us on the tour. She was absolutely incredible, and she was so knowledgeable about the area, and she loved the area that she was from. So that was really cool. I don't know that that's something I would want to do in every single port, because it is a really big part of your day. And it's a lot of walking, and it's a lot of architecture, and I like it to an extent. I loved that we did it for one day. I don't know that I would have wanted to do that for every single day, but it was really cool getting to see all of that in Barcelona. We did enjoy that. And then we flew home the next day. Biggest thing I can tell you, number one, is especially in the Barcelona airport, it is not like being in Dallas Love Field or Southwest Love Field. No, DFW or Dallas Love Field. Sorry, I confused the two. It was pretty hardcore, a little bit scary. There are, in DFW or in Love Field or American airports, for the most part, you see security. They're standing around. You do not see a machine gun that they are holding right in front of them like you do in Barcelona. It's very different. We got to the airport 3.5 hours before our flight. I still barely got on. It moves at a much slower pace. They do not care if there are long lines. There's one person pretty much working in each area. So definitely get there much earlier than what you would in our airports, or you're potentially going to miss your flight. The flights are long, which is why another reason I think I just never assumed that I would go. It's a day of traveling. So when you're planning that trip, you have to know that you have at least 2 days of just travel time. So it was a long flight, but it was fine, honestly. I was really worried about it, thinking, okay, I'm going to do all these things and I'm going to do all this. And really, I read a book. I actually watched a couple movies on the flight back, which was nice. I forgot how funny Wedding Crashers is. So it wasn't bad at all. And it was nice almost to just kind of have some quiet time. Obviously, if you can, get an aisle seat. I was on the aisle, so maybe that's why it wasn't horrible. I could not sit in the middle seat, but it wasn't bad. It was nice. I brought home more than what I went with, so I had to pay for some luggage to come back, but it was still worth it. And I absolutely loved it. I can't wait to go again. France and Italy for sure were my favorites. As for architecture, Spain was my favorite. For the people, for the ambiance, I would say France was my favorite. And for the food and the scenery and the greenery, I would say Italy was my favorite. So all in all, I loved all of it. It was so interesting seeing all of these places that, are so close together. These people are just hopping over for weekends here and there, but they're so different from each other. Knowing that here, whether you live in Dallas or you live in Houston, or maybe you live in El Paso or Lubbock, wherever you live in Texas, we kind of still do everything pretty much the same. For the most part, we're going to speak the same, eat the same foods, have the same restaurants. And to see there how they're popping around to a different country in the same day, totally different language, totally different food, totally different way of life. It was interesting. It was neat. It was a really cool thing to see, and something that I think we almost take for granted because America is so big and we spend so much time traveling within our own country. We kind of don't feel it possible to go there, but it is. I used points to fly. I didn't pay a dollar for my flights. I didn't pay for any of my luggage except for on the way back because it was expensive. Um, as for money there, that also seems kind of scary. I went to my bank here before I left to get euros. Truthfully, I would have been fine there without euros because you could just use your card. So I could have used my debit card or a credit card there, no problem. And you actually, I think, get more for the euro than you do for the dollar right now anyway. But I did have euros that I brought with me. I still have most of them in my purse right now, and I need to go return them and get my money back at the bank, which they told me when I left I was able to do. A lot of people also are afraid about security. I heard so many people saying, don't take your nice jewelry, don't take this. I never experienced that. Everything 100% felt safe to me everywhere that we went. I never for a moment felt unsafe. I went around by myself multiple times without a care in the world, and there was no worry. As for like outlets and things like that, on the cruise ship, they actually had American plugs. We did bring a little plug thing I got off of Amazon just in case we needed it, and we used it at the hotel. We didn't even need it on the ship. So I think like don't let yourself box you in when it comes to traveling. Don't get so stuck in that same routine where every single year you go to this place, every single year you go to this place. If you love it and you enjoy it, that's fine. But if you're doing it just because you feel like it's maybe just unattainable or too hard to go somewhere new, it really isn't. Once you do it and go there, you kind of realize, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this sooner? Or we need to do this again. I told James he's going whether he wants to or not. I definitely want to go back and take him. And like I said, in a couple of years, I'd love to take the kids. I think it's a big, wide world out there, and we don't need to box ourselves in just to our one little corner. So if you have any other questions about it, if you want recommendations on the travel agent I used or any of the places that we saw or we stayed, I'd love to help you. I am not a travel agent. I'll get nothing out of that, but I would love to help you get to experience the world a little bit more like I did. And then we'll be right here to dress you for your travels.